Headlines of the Southland, Monday, January 23rd. Mr. Purdy, a Georgia Tech basketball player, won Player of the Week. Tell me more.
I know. How about that? Tony Morgan was the not player of the week, ACC rookie of the week. I had that wrong in the sheet, but either way, she still put on a great showing the last couple of games, averaging 15 and a half and 11 and a half rebounds in the win against Syracuse and the loss against North Carolina. But still, in both games, she showed out and played really well. Nell in the post game after the Syracuse game was really happy about how she's able to drive, how much better she is at driving to the hole, just finding more and more confidence each game, and just kind of right now my comp is that she's playing like a Russell Westbrook that makes buckets, which absolutely is a dig on Russell Westbrook. Can't pass up on those, but
Not a Russell Westbrook situation.
no, it's better than a Russell Westbrook situation because she also does know how to share the ball some, and when she just needs to get something done, she just gets it done.
Damn, he didn't get my joke. This is
No,
disappointing.
sorry. I can't say
Russell
basketball.
Westbrook? Come on. How many
Okay.
gold?
Oh,
I didn't
How
need that
many?
one. It's a
How
good
many
one.
gold?
It is a good one. It is a good one. He's actually been playing better, so can't really go there right now. But either way, no, Tony absolutely deserved her Rookie of the Week nomination in a week where we finally got a win, but we'll get on that later.
Speaking
there.
of gold, specifically things that are painted in gold, Mr. Grant, something found its new home on campus this week.
Yeah. It was the Ramblin' Wreck that found its new home, the garage project that's been ongoing planning started when I was still a wee, undergrad and maybe even before that. But yeah, the Rec moved into its new home. The Alumni Association promptly tweeted out a tweet with Rec spelled with a W. So that was, rankling
Wow.
to me. But some things never change, but the Rec now does get to live in a place where everyone can see it. Tours will start nearby. It doesn't have to be some big secret for the student body. I think it makes it a lot more accessible. So I've been a big supporter of this project from as long as I've known about it. So it's really great to see it come to fruition in that sense, but also just in the student body knows where it is and can feel that connection to it right in the heart of campus. So it's next to the renovated student center, the wing that was torn down and rebuilt. So kind of off the transit hub turnaround, I guess, off of First Drive. So right in the heart of campus, should be very accessible to those that want to see it.
It's got a lot of chairs and stuff around it too, so you can like sit next to the garage. It's not just like a walking kind of thing. You can hang out there. It's a really good little spot where you can get a lot of sun on campus on a day where getting a lot of sun works, and then you're still right next to everything. So it's added study spots with the view.
Yep.
Um,
And it's got a lot of natural light, so that'll go really well with the car.
and it'll be cool
So
too, like when they actually like work on it, like the mechanics of it. You'll be able to see that happen, assuming they actually do that in that space and not the old space wherever it was. Which I still got to find out
they'll
where.
do it.
I swear to
They'll
God, I'm going to find out.
they'll do it in the new space. I think that was
They'll
the
do what
plan
they
that we were told.
can. They'll do what they can in the new
Yeah,
space, with it being a 100 or not 100,
it's
92-year-old car.
it's not exactly a big area either. Like it's pretty boxy.
You have to remember that these are students and not professional mechanics. They can only do so much, like Jake was saying, to a 92-year-old
Uh,
car.
I will say the point of the Model A is to be a very like hands-on car, one that the everyman can renovate. I think that's what makes it such a perfect fit. And this is me now getting into the philosophy of the Model A being the perfect Ramblin' Wreck
Cut a
mascot for Georgia
promo.
Tech.
Cut a promo.
But where I'm going at here is at the end of the day, yes, the things that were more easy to accomplish in 1930, just from the accessibility of parts and the certain, aspects that maybe, aren't as easy to do with just given the age of the car. Akshay, I don't know if we're at liberty to talk about this, but there was an extensive rebuild a couple
There's an
years
expensive
ago.
rebuild in '07. That was the expensive
Extensive,
rebuild.
not expensive, but I
No,
mean, it
yeah,
was
I said
expensive.
extensive. I can use my
Oh,
T's.
I was if it's anything,
Freudian.
the layman me was aware of this as well. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'll say there is a lot of that stuff is not the stuff that Henry Ford and his engineers would have average Joe in 1931 doing to their art anyways. That's body paneling and, the special paint with the metallic flex. Like, that's not something you could just do on campus. So the stuff that they can do, they will do there. But as always, you're not going to see like, Joe Schmo doing a complete engine rebuild because they're the driver in between, their midterm and going to, I don't know, be an RA or something like that. Like, that's just not feasible. But it is great to have it there, and they will do the stuff that they can around there. And they'll wash it right there too, which, that's a great way to engage with maintenance for the student body too.
Yeah, it'll be a very, very fun space. Speaking of very unfun spaces on campus, let's talk about McCamish Pavilion this past week. Men's basketball went 0 for 2. They lost to Kevin Keats's NC State. Unfortunately, NC State is a winner. They took away a 78-66 win. And Syracuse and Jim Boeheim and his merry band of orange took away an 80-63 win. Georgia Tech, I think, is right now 1-8 in conference with 5 consecutive losses in the ACC after that win versus Miami that I think a lot of us thought was going to be a turning point in the season. They have only broken 70 points twice versus ACC opponents, and one of those had to be was an OT versus Notre Dame. Mr. Purdy, you were on press row for, I believe, at least one of these games. What was your take from your bird's eye view?
It's a lot of the same that we've been talking about before. I mean, a lot of effort, but from Davon, the shooting gets really hot or gets really cold at times. We've had some injuries, mishaps this week as well. It's just not all there. Josh was not as usual, even as giddy as he is wont to be when he can be. He just wasn't that after the North Carolina State game. From what I can remember, at that point, the losing streak, that was in the midst of before the women had won their game, so that was like the worst it had ever gotten between the men and women's losing streaks at that time. I remember a couple of us saying in the media room before Josh came out that I was like, that was just the worst shooting we've seen in ages. Like, it was just overall just not there at all. Which is not to take away from the talent of the team, but I think the team is talented. There's a lot of other factors here that have gone into why this team is what it is this year. And Syracuse didn't look any better. My feed accidentally cut out on Bally like with 3 minutes left in the Syracuse game, and I was like, I don't think I need to try and find the end of this game.
Jake and I were there, and I think we would have rathered the feed cut out. The feed of our eyes, if you will, would have cut out.
All that to say, there's a lot of work here to do. I remember that Miami game, like, it felt so good. Miami, and they did really well defensively, like make Miami work hard to get anything done, and I haven't seen that since then.
Mr. Grant, what you got for me?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm where a lot of Tech fans are. It's disappointing, and it feels like we've watched really the same game, different flavors of it all year. We haven't really been all that clean in terms of fouls. We haven't clicked in all 3 scoring aspects of the game, whether that's, from 2, from 3, and from the line. We haven't drawn a lot of fouls to get to the line. There's really minimal success in the paint night to night. I don't know. It's just hard to take really anything away from it. We got a winning conference. Hooray. Won't go winless. But I mean, I hate to rag. I love men's basketball. Like, this is perhaps my favorite college sport to watch. And it's just tough. There's not a lot going right. The defense isn't horrible, but it's not particularly good. They've been, turning the ball over a decent amount. And when you're not on in any consistent way, it's tough. And it's a team that's young still, but I think Pastner actually said it pretty well in one of his press conferences recently, is that they didn't win enough last year, right? That was a team that was kind of in a weird spot, bridging between old and young. In that case, it did have Michael DeVoe and Jordan Usher to be reliable old options there, but it made the seat that much hotter to directly focus on the Pastner side of things, but it made the seat that much hotter looking towards this year. And it's not easy to, I assume, be on a team that just isn't really now Siri just turned on for some reason. I don't know. Siri, please be quiet. Anyways, that distraction aside, where was I going?
I
My
mean,
computer is failing me.
they're not. They're not up to snuff. It's hard to watch, and
They're
as
not.
much as we love watching them play, like there's been a crowd issue as well because attendance down as predictable. But during that NC State game, I asked Josh about this. Like there was a very very loud NC Wolfpack chant at the end of that game.
Same with
Q's too.
Same with the Q's game.
Yeah, I did hear that over the TV. And but at least at the NC State game, the attempted response with the Yellow Jacket chant that the band started up was met with dead silence. Like no one said anything.
Well, I mean, it's just a very I think both of you have said it, so I'm not really going to mince this again too hard, but it's just rough. Like I'm not really going to blame students for taking time out of their days to watch bad basketball.
No, I wouldn't.
Like I'll be the bad cop on this one.
No,
like,
I agree. It's already hard enough to get a lot of them
too.
out as well because Tech is a very unique student situation relative to other major ACC schools. Like it's just a different kind of fan base.
Well, and when Georgia Tech has been mediocre to good, my freshman year NIT team comes to mind. Those Saturday noon, 2, 3, 4 o'clock games when nothing else is going on pre-dinner, like what else is there to do on a Saturday when you're a college student other than eat some breakfast, go watch some hoops? Like that was Saturday, right? And not to the same extent that football is in the fall, right? And I mean, maybe that's just the circles people run in, but I mean, it was hard to make sure you're going to get a ticket. And even when the team was mediocre to again, that NIT year comes to mind. I think they put like 2,000 or 3,000 students in against Clemson, and even last year, right, against Wisconsin, there was 3,000-4,000 students, and it was packed. I mean, expectations were super high, fresh off the ACC title. Like it's a student body that responds to success, and I think you see that. We go back to this sport all the time. But volleyball is a model for the success you can have on campus. Even though this year, I think I was a little bit down on them because they didn't really live up to the expectation, at least I think I had going into the season. But those students still pack the place out to the point where you can't get in. It's the same thing that you see with baseball. Like during the COVID season with baseball, they would sell out the student allotment. Granted, there weren't enough of those tickets, but the line to get in every day was super long. And that's what happens when you have a good team and a successful team. And Georgia Tech fans they don't have time to waste, right? And they're not gonna spend that time on something that's not coming to fruition. And I think that's why you saw notable upticks even in the Jeff Collins era. Granted, very limited student tickets in 2020, but in 21, boom, little spike after that UNC game because hey, it's successful. I want to go invest in that and see that. And I don't think either of our two biggest marquee programs, men's basketball and football, COVID year notwithstanding for the men on the basketball side, like they've just gone and poof. Like I don't blame students for doing that just because I, as a full-time working adult, tend to make a similar decision. You know, I don't go to every game if I have choir and things like that. It's hard to just force it into your schedule if you're not going to see a compelling product.
Yeah, I think that's about where we can leave that one. Their upcoming schedule, just to be thorough, tonight when you hear this, because this will be Tuesday, they will be at number 24 Clemson. That's a 9 p.m. tip on ACC Network. And then Saturday, Duke will visit McCamish Pavilion, at 3 p.m. That is a sold-out game. I'm going to leave it there. Let's move on to the women's side of Zelnak Practice Center. The women started off their week with a win versus Syracuse, 69-57. A rough game for Cuse, especially in the paint and around the rim. But Tech took their chances and they pulled away late. And then on the flip side, in Carmichael Arena in Chapel Hill, Tech lost to number 17 UNC 70-57. Mr. Purdy, let's start with you. Tell me about the Syracuse game.
Syracuse seemed like they were on the brink of pulling away multiple times. And then in the third quarter, Tech had an 8-0 run to get up by 4, which is the most they were up by at any point. And then it was held. They were just close the whole way. And then in the fourth quarter, they had another shot to break away, and they did, which just hasn't happened all year against a significant opponent to actually like put together a good stretch of basketball that they didn't immediately give up. Dunn and Noero barely played. They only played like 13 combined minutes against Syracuse, even though they started. So it was pretty clear that was going to be a Cam and Bianca game. And also an AC Carter game, who went perfect shooting for 9 points in from the line. So she's maybe finding a little slot here. Syracuse also like missed like 15 layups. I went back and checked, and Tech also missed a crap ton of layups, but they just made the ones that mattered most. So there's a lot of ways you can dissect that game, but ultimately it's that Syracuse did not make the most of their opportunities, and Tech was just a little bit more efficient. And Cam finally kind of found her footing again. So
let's talk a little bit about this UNC game, which I tuned in for a little bit when I got a chance, and just felt like Tech had it within shooting distance at halftime. I think they were only down 6 or 8 points, and then just got completely run over.
They allowed a couple late buckets in the first half that made that lead a little bit bigger than it should have been. That should have been like 4 or 5, and then allowed a 3 and a late 2 that just weren't smart. Wasn't smart defense. Yeah, by the end, UNC is just outmatched. Like that's a more mature team with a little bit better size, and we're able to take advantage of our turnovers really well. But I mean, as we mentioned, Tony was rookie of the week this week. She was 16 points, 15 rebounds, 2 assists against Syracuse, and then 15, 8, and 2 against North Carolina, and was the leading scorer in that game. So I think there was a lot of positives there. They'll mention this after the Syracuse game as well, that like even though the wins weren't adding up, finally we got one against Syracuse though, but even in the losses, like there's still progress being made. Kara Dunn rebounded pretty well after having a pretty bad week last week, or the week before last. So I think the positives are there. At this point in my head, I have transitioned this year from this is disappointing compared to expectations to let's just change the expectations to we got 2 fifth-years that can come fill in when we need, but now we have these freshmen that are pretty raw but clearly have a lot of upside, so let's just max out the amount of development we can do this year and see what that turns into next year.
We've said this a couple times before on previous episodes. It is a transition year. There's no shame in that for the women's team, especially coming off the 3-year set that they just had, right? It was always going to be like this. I think I said it last week. I don't think it's revisionist history to make that point again. We'll just kind of have to see where things end up. Anything else stand out to you from these 2 games?
At this point, I think Bianca and Cam have found their way a little bit more after having they were going 26% shooting is what we mentioned a couple episodes ago of where they were collectively. So they've rebounded. I mean the pendulum swing was going to go back the other way eventually. So I think they're doing well with that. Bianca has taken even more of a step back though in terms of like playing time. Like she didn't come in until like the 5-minute mark in the second quarter against North Carolina. So Nell is using her a lot more sparingly. I'm pretty sure AC Carter came in before her. And AC Carter's in a weird role here because last year she was used more in the post when Hermosa and Kubai just needed to be out for a bit. But she could do any of like perimeter defense or interior defense, even though she's undersized for the interior. So it's just interesting to see how Nell's kind of using her as like just a shoo-in for whatever position needs a person for a minute.
Mr. Grant, I've ignored you for too long. Any notes on women's basketball before we move on?
Syracuse was kind of similar to the Miami game was for the men. It was a team kind of playing towards expectations and executing pretty well on all sides of the ball. And, it's something that we knew they had in them, but it'd be nice to get some momentum put together before the end of the year. But, that remains to be seen.
All right. Next game for the women is Thursday versus Clemson at 7 p.m. I believe that'll be on ACC Network Extra. And then they take a week off in between fixtures. We will be taking a couple minutes off for this short break.
Yes, as always, Signs of the Southland is brought to you by Section 103. Section 103 is the podcast preferred way to get and attain great Georgia Tech and Georgia Tech adjacent apparel. They have everything from gold to navy to white to gray and really everything in between. They have some great fun designs as well as, performance tees and things of that nature. I saw a lot of Welcome to the Thriller Dome shirts in McCamish the past, I guess we've been there like 5 times in the last week and change. So definitely a lot of Welcome to the Thriller Dome. And it's my preferred shirt when I go to basketball games myself. As always, free shipping on orders over $70 every day. And you can find them at section103.com and at section103 on Twitter.
Welcome back to Scions of the Southland for January 23rd. Mr. Grant, men's tennis played a very interesting slate this week that started with a doubleheader versus Presbyterian? Question mark?
See, there's a lot of content that we're about to have here. I don't know how we want to divide it up, but I am going to take this platform to say that a 4-3 win over Presbyterian is not what you want to do. Again, mid majors, low majors in tennis don't really pull upsets in the same vein as, your average baseball, men's basketball, women's basketball type deal. And a 4-3 win is still a win, yes, but it is much, much, much too close for comfort. Tech won the doubles point in the first match. Martin and McDaniel got back on their winning ways, and they were ahead in the third pairing when play was suspended. So Tech won two courts, and the point was decided. Of note, Andres Martin and Keshav Chopra both lost in 2 sets. Chopra did lose in tiebreak 7-6, 6-4, 7-6, and then that was a 7-4 tiebreak. But 2-set losses on your top 2 courts to a low major is not ideal at all. In the second match, they did go 6-1. That was a doubles point loss. Martin and Chopra were teamed up as well as McDaniel and Shakri, McKinney and Saktev, with Martin and Chopra being the winners there. And then they did sweep out the singles, all in really not dropping a set a set kind of way. So, good to see them bounce back, but that first afternoon and granted it was a Thursday, so maybe busy day, midterm type deal, but a little bit rocky at the start. That is a lot of words in a row, though. So if anyone has any thoughts on the second doubleheader, I'm all ears.
Let me give you a natural break. It seemed like this first doubleheader, at least based on the matchups that we're seeing, it looks like a lot of lineup rotation, trying to figure out what works before we head into ACC play. We saw a couple instances of this last year too, except maybe not in this kind of doubleheader, like immediate comparison foil situation.
I was going to say that's the time to do it. And they're 5-0, which is stacking up wins is kind of the aim that we had earlier. And they did continue to stack them up on Sunday, going 7-0 and 6-1.
All right. So Wofford and Alabama State. Tell me more.
Yep. So that 7-0 I mentioned was over at Wofford. That was bright and early on Sunday morning. They won doubles 2-1, I guess you could say, was the decision there. Martin McDaniel and Chopra and Shokri got the wins. And then across the singles, it was a straight sweep 6-0. Martin won in 2. McDaniel won 6-0, 6-0. And Jack and I were discussing before we went live just how impressive it is to completely 6-0 an opponent. And they did it twice. So really great to see there. McDaniel rounding into some form. Of note, the fourth and fifth courts were decided in some form of tiebreak or another, with Saktev and Fullett on court 4, splitting their first 2 sets after the match had already been decided. Saktev won 10-2 there, and then Shokri defeated Horn 6-3, 7-6, so that tiebreak was to decide the second set. As for Alabama State, 6-1 was the final there. You had Martin and McDaniel and Chopra and Chokri winners. McKinney and Bauer were unfinished, so very good work, quick work there. And then in singles, it was 5-1. All your winners were in 2 sets. That includes McKinney falling in 2 to Johnson of Alabama State. Of note, Martin and McDaniel. Again, McDaniel on fire, went 6-0, 6-3. Martin was 6-4, 6-1. Really top to bottom, pretty solid play on Sunday for the men.
Flipping over to the women's side, the women, the headline is that they dispatched Georgia State 7-0 in a clean sweep. But interesting thing here is you saw a similar theme of lineup rotation too. The doubles, or the 6 women that played doubles, were not the same as the 6 women that played singles. So tell me a little bit more about that.
This is the kind of quick work you want against your mid and low majors. Lee and Sharabura 6-0, Bilchev and Cruz 6-0. The other was unfinished in doubles. Of note, I kind of wondered last week where Ava Roster was at. Well, she was back this week playing on court 5. That was a 6-2, 6-2 win. And this is a great sign. Because talking about the addition of Alejandra Cruz, this is showing that she can slot in and push a talented tech player down one court, which means we have that much more depth. Rosie Garcia Gross was playing on 6, while your 3 ranked jackets were playing on courts 1, 2, and 3. And I thought Kate Sharabura was ranked in singles as well. And now I'm seeing she's not on the lineup. So even the more the merrier there. Carol Lee's a top 10 player. It seems like Georgia Tech has kind of shook one of those out of the woodwork annually when they've been a good team. But slotting Sharabura back in to this lineup, presumably making it Lee, Sharabura, Bilchev, Jane, Cruz, and Roster, is really quite the top 6 and shows just the kind of depth they've stacked up with the freshmen in Cruz and the sophomores over the last 2 years.
Yeah, you can really play around with some of the combinations here, right? And I think that's what they did today, because your doubles pairings are, like you said, Lee Sharabura, who's the top line one that we know, the one that we're watching in terms of national contention. Bilchev Cruz, Jane Marsh. Marsh doesn't factor in at all into the singles play, but you see Roster and Gross come into play singles. So you have like a 6, 7, 8 woman deep rotation here, if not more. I think my math is off there, that of dependable players developing here. And especially with that addition of Cruz, who got Rookie of the Week, I believe, last week as well. You know that you have something cooking here. And I'm definitely interested to see how well they do once they get the ground running for ACC play. Any other notes on tennis before we move over to the pool?
I didn't know that they'll stop the third doubles match if they don't need to finish it. That I kind of figure they just play it out, but I guess that makes sense. If it's already over. It depends
on the competition. Like sometimes they'll play it through.
Okay, yeah, I was like, it makes sense to play it through, like for statistical purposes, but also it's like, well, if the points are already decided, just move along. Don't even worry about it. Get out of there.
Yeah, I know. Especially in the early stages of the season, they'll play it through just so everyone gets match fit, and gets
I wonder if weather was a consideration as well, or like darkness or something like that.
It's also something with the women only playing one fixture this week that you play them through with needing the tune-up before ITA, because I would say it doesn't quite get the same play from non-tennis fans, but ITA it's a national championship. Like, it's just not the NCAA one.
Right.
So very, very big deal, and got to get in shape real quick for it.
Got it on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is coming up for both programs this weekend. I believe the women are headed to Berkeley, and the men are headed to
Stanford.
Palo Alto.
My favorite. Well, I guess they can take
Akshay,
the same
Stanford fan.
They could have both gone to Stanford. I think that was a possibility with how the draft worked out, and they just both didn't go there.
They'll both get to SFO and take different buses.
Yes,
from the airport.
Not to be confused with the bus that Akshay and I took this summer, but they'll
head the same way for like half of the trip and then split off, because going to Berkeley is a nightmare from SFO.
I do want to say one thing there. One, it's not a nightmare. You can take a train and it takes you right there. 2, Georgia Tech did have the 17th draft position. They chose to be the 2 seed at Cal, and immediately after them, Florida State picked the 2 seed at Stanford, and immediately after that, Arkansas picked to be the 3 seed at Stanford. So yes, they did in fact have the option to wind up the 2 at Stanford. So Good job, Jack.
Very nicely done. Let's move over to the pool. Men and women swim and dive face off versus Queen's University from Charlotte and West Florida. So I have on the shot sheet here some personal doubts about the competitiveness of the schedule. But, Mr. Grant, you've informed me that Queen's University of Charlotte is actually a legitimate swimming power of some sort.
Well, I wouldn't call them instantly a Division I swimming power. That being said, Queen's swimming, I'm going to get the exact number of titles here, but it is not a, let's say, schlubby program. It's quite good. In fact, they are brand new to Division I swimming. And by the metric that Akshay and I invented, the CAP rankings, we have them at number 27 on the men's side and number 45 on the women's side, while Georgia Tech in those same rankings are sitting at 24 and 39. So really a comparable program all around to Georgia Tech. Again, the women a little bit lower, but in terms of Queens, again, I'm really struggling to pull up the history.
This is great podcast preparation.
The NCAA that they've got here, but Division II power, I'm going to get back to you on those number of championships. Queens is a borderline top 25, top 30 program on the men's side. It's a, dare I say, I think it might be our first quality win on the men's side of the year. And it's enough that the men are now ranked number 22. We can talk about the results in just a second, but a 149 to 112 win over a program right in, for lack of a better way to put it, right in your neighborhood. I think that's a pretty good weekend. And this is a team that I'm very, I don't want to say down on, but I definitely know that they lost a lot of pieces with those fifth years from last year. So really great to see them taking down someone in their neighborhood.
I have those D2 championships pulled up because Wikipedia is fun. They have 10 NCAA Division II swimming and diving championships, 5 on the women's side, 5 on the men's side in consecutive years, starting from 2015 to 2019.
Well, they deserve to jump up, I guess. My goodness.
Yeah, they've got a really, really great top to bottom non-rev baseball.
The North Dakota State of
baseball.
D2 swimming?
Apparently.
I mean, they're not bad. They're not bad. I think they must have been on the schedule back in the COVID times because I believe we had Queens and Emory on the schedule at one point.
It sounds familiar.
Which at that point were the reigning D2 and D3 championships. I feel like my brain wouldn't make that up, right?
Emory's been good, so like that would make sense.
It's
to me,
Emory and a country club sport. Are you surprised? Am I surprised in any capacity? Not really.
No.
You shouldn't be.
Also, Emory, a great frisbee golf course.
Really?
Yeah.
Like on
Of
campus?
course there is.
Yeah. You got to play on Sunday mornings when no one's there though.
Huh. We'll talk online because I know a lot of people that go way further than Emory to go play frisbee golf, but that's neither here nor there.
Mr. Grant, individual scores, hit me.
Also, I had the NCAA site up. Queens did win the 2022 men's and women's swimming and diving D2 championship. So they need to update that Wikipedia page.
Oh, so
scores.
They're fresh D1 then.
Oh yeah. Brand new. But anyway, scores. 149, 112 on the men's side. The Queens on the women's side, 191, 103, and they beat West Florida 234, 66. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe there's some sort of coaching staff connection to West Florida because I was trying to figure out how they played into this mix, but I could not place it. Also, the Queens did win in 2021, just in case to erase any doubt. 7 in a row for them before they left D2. In the individual performances, we had Denise Ertan winning the 1650 free and the 500 freestyle. Batura Unlu winning the 200 free and 500 freestyle. Mert Kilavuz winning the 650 free and coming in second in the 500 freestyle Ray Kuramoto winning the 200 free for the women, Berke Saka winning the 1 and 200 backstroke, Anna Haji Loizu. Wow, I did not think that through before I started speaking. And Mackenzie Campbell with 200 butterfly and 400 IM wins. All of those are coming with NCAA consideration, the B cut, so not an automatic, but they're at least in the mix. And dare I say, gents, that is a big reason why the men are currently ranked in the top 25 with this month's update.
I'm gonna go with Haji Loizu. Haji Loizu.
Your guess is as good as mine.
I agree with you on the men. I remember talking to them last year at NCAAs, and the fifth years were very adamant of we stayed because we wanted to help cultivate this thing and turn it into something better, that it would actually have some staying power. And the staying power's there clearly in terms of a very immediate ranking in the crux, in the beginning of the meaty part of the season.
Well, and that's them bouncing back, right? That they lost so much. I mean, Ferraro didn't quite get as much, I think, as his fair share would have been without Pamputis kind of being the guy. But the two of them, and obviously a lot of other fifth years, last year's as well, that were very strong. But those two coming to mind most particularly. The two of those guys, huge part of it.
All that to say, I mean, the team is in a better spot than it has been in a while. I think we swim at home this week, I believe, as well. I'm going to try to go to that. I haven't been to a meet this year and get to sit in the new seats.
Those seats are pretty fresh. I think only a couple weeks since they've been installed, right?
A little bit more than that, but yeah, they've only had a couple, 3 meets, and there may have been some kids stuff going on. I mean, Swim Atlanta obviously has been there, so parents have been using it. So, but yeah, this will be the first. These January meets have been the first things that have been running there since the seats were installed.
Let's talk about diving very fast. You had 3 zone qualifiers, but the men's, curiously, did not count.
The men only dove an exhibition this week because, West Florida only has a women's team. But the men for Queens did not. I guess Queens doesn't. Question mark. They weren't there for the men either. It was West Florida and Georgia Tech. So men's results did not count. They all did it in exhibition. So go figure.
Oh, fair enough. Also, those qualifiers for zones, Katie McKighton, Anna Bradescu, and Carmen Woodruff. I don't remember if I said their names or either of us said their names. So there is that as well. Let's move over to track and field, what some call the on-land version of swimming. They have a new building. It's not really a new building. It's a renovated building, wouldn't you say, Mr. Purdy?
Yes. I actually don't know where this is on campus. I need to go find it. I got a friend on the team. I should poke them about that.
I think it's just
it's across
right
from Newborn.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
across from
the
Newborn.
building that is next to not the recordings, the TV studio.
Yes. Okay. This makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, they got the little just the general lounge area. The baseball team got that with Champions Hall a couple of years ago. The new football locker room, of course. So just in the vein of all the resting recreational spaces for the team getting upgraded or rebuilt, and track and field's got one now. It looks very nice. It's on their social medias if you want to check it out.
It's very in line with both the baseball renovation design-wise and the football locker room renovation.
It is.
From a while ago. And I guess the volleyball one, technically, from last year, because they got a renovation recently.
I guess, they got a little bit of one. Their room is also just really small, too. I can't wait for them to outgrow O'Keefe so they can have a proper size.
It's on the list of projects.
On the list.
On the list of projects.
Are we gonna go into how that was gonna come a couple of years ago? Because I thought that was
we're
happening,
but we're going to let that one lay until there are confirmed details we can be journalists about. But what there are confirmed details that we can be journalists about are some of the results from track and field this weekend at Vanderbilt.
Track and field headed up to Nashville this weekend. They spend most of the winter in either Nashville or Clemson. So I hope they get good rates on hotels. Anyways, you had a couple notable results. Your first place finishers on the weekend, Anna Witherspoon and Taylor Grimes. Those are in the 60-meter hurdles and dash, respectively. Good to see some wins, relatively crowded meet. So good to see that. A couple second place finishes. Julia Harris, Shanti Papacosta, second in the 200-meter for Harris with a 24:36 and 1:68 for the high jump. I may have said that Witherspoon and Taylor Grimes were the winners in the hurdles and the dash. I believe that's Witherspoon and Harris, because I'm very certain that Harris did win an event. So shame on me there for bungling that one. In terms of third place finishers, you had Cameron O'Neill and Matthew Mazzacano. That's third for both of them. 769 in the long jump. That's 769 meters and a 4.8 meter pole vault. Among the relays, the men also finished second in the 4x400 meter relay. And if there's one thing that I harp on a lot about in swimming and would love to do more in track, is that the relays are very important and show great depth. So hopefully they can keep that up, and that translates well to individual events, but also some points at ACCs.
Good stuff. Any other notes on active NCAA sports before we wrap up here with a couple
just
minor
confirmed
news notes?
Harris did win the 60 meter dash, not to Grimes. Grimes came in second in the 60 meter hurdles.
How could you do this to me?
Meters.
How can you do this to me and be inaccurate? I'm so offended.
The worst. I guess the only thing I would think of is, I will note, we talked about the football staff being hired, but Tech officially announced it. Doesn't change anything, but it's what we said is confirmed.
Jeep Wade's name is getting a lot of play on Twitter. I'll leave it at that.
Jeep
indeed. Let's talk about hockey very quick. They had senior night this past weekend. But one of their games this weekend was a loss, 4-3 to Clemson. Did we ever figure out what the score on the other game was?
I couldn't find any record of it happening, not in social media and not on the CHF website.
They're supposed to play an outdoor game in Athens, which is already sold out in case you wanted to go to that. But this is interesting how they're going to pull off an outdoor game in Georgia in the first week of February, which you'd think would be not a bad time to try and pull it off, but the weather is not exactly
they also
hockey
said it
weather.
Was a brand new rink, which makes me want to Google.
Well, so I did check, and they're also playing Ole Miss on that rink before they play Tech, or UGA is playing Ole Miss first. So we will not be the first test run of that. So that's
is this just going to end up like that Lake Tahoe game that had to get postponed because the ice was melting? The NHL Lake Tahoe game.
I know what you're talking about. I really hope not. Just for the sake of that seems cool to go watch a game out there outside in Georgia. They've done it in Nashville for the Predators as well, but this is still a little bit further south.
Dallas for the Stars too.
Yeah, you're right. So I don't know.
Until they do it in Miami, I won't believe it. Or excuse me, Sunrise, Florida, or whatever the hell it's called.
The Panthers play in Miami.
Is it I can never put where the actual.
Florida.
Yeah, I can never place these damn teams when it comes to hockey. Yeah.
The only really confusing ones are the Arizona Coyotes that used to be the Phoenix Coyotes, and then
they play in Mullet Arena.
Yes, they
were in Glendale and now they're in Tempe, right?
They play in the 30,000 or not 30, 3,000. That is one factor of 10 off.
Wow,
the 3,000 seat Mullet Arena, purpose built for Arizona State hockey.
Yep.
Incredible that the NHL and Gary Bettman chose to let that team function and stay in Arizona instead of the Thrashers in Atlanta. But that's all I have time to complain for about today. I think that about wraps it up for us this week. We'll have softball and baseball previews in a couple of weeks as those seasons come closer. I think we're just about a month away, a little less than a month for softball in particular.
We're under a month for both of them now.
Counting is hard. Never been good at math.
It's like a week and a half till softball. We really got to preview them, don't we?
Yeah, that's like next week.
I'll put it on the schedule. But I think that is about it for us. Mr. Grant, take us home.
Yeah. So thanks again for tuning in. This has been Scions of the Southland. I am Jake, and Jack and Akshay would like to thank you for listening as well. You can find all of us, you can find Jack and myself on Twitter at JakeGrant98 and Jack Nicklaus. But you can find all of us at FTRS blog on Twitter, at From the Rumble Seat on Facebook and Instagram. I'm doing this in a different order because I feel like it. You can also find the website from therumbleseat.com. We put up articles with this and a bevy of other content as well. You can comment there. Comment, review, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. We really do appreciate the feedback. And if you feel like submitting some longer comments, you can find us from the rumbleseat@gmail.com. This podcast is available wherever fine podcasts are distributed. And we thank you once again for listening. Good night, good luck, and go Jackets.
Mr. Grant, I'm told you have more trivia for us.
I do have some trivia for you. Welcome to this week's edition of Jake's historic bit of the week that needs a segment name, if you will. This week, I have a fairly straightforward question. It's out of my complete compiled Georgia Tech football history results page of the website. Giving it to you straight, boys. What is Tech football's most win against a single opponent without taking a loss all time?
So to clarify, this is the most wins in a row before they lost for the first time? Is that,
Nope. Just most wins, zero losses.
Longest winning streak.
No.
Is it longest winning? Okay.
No. It is out of all of our opponents, whom have we only beaten?
Oh, okay.
So 1,000 win percentage. Most wins.
I see. Okay. This makes sense. Oh boy, haven't we played like everybody because we're old?
Not that old.
Yeah, we've taken some
John
interesting
Heisman
losses.
was our coach. We're old.
Yeah, we've taken some interesting losses to some of the teams you might not think. Let me give you a little bit of guidance.
Yes, please.
It's not one of the things that would immediately come to mind.
I was kind of already assuming that.
One of clarification, is this going to be some like weird Iowa like high school or air schooler thing, if you get my parlance?
Can we get a region of the country?
Yes. The Southeast. It's not Mercer, but think Mercer-like schools.
Mercer-like schools. Okay.
Sewanee.
Oh, that's a good one.
No, but good guess.
Oh man.
Do you want the number and the opponent, right?
Number of games and the opponent, yes. Furman's a good guess too.
Furman in 12 games.
Furman, we I believe we've taken at least one loss. I know we've taken at least one loss to Furman.
Oh my!
However, I will give you another hint.
Okay.
They are in the same conference as Furman and Mercer.
Were you about to say Mercer?
I don't know that conference, sadly.
No, Georgia State has only existed for.
Is it Georgia Southern?
Nope.
Oh man, I don't even know if they're the same.
I think we've only played them 4 times ever. All right, I'll give you another hint. They're in the state of Alabama.
Oh.
Hold on. I need to make sure I pronounce this correctly. Tusculum.
Nope.
Tusculum? Yeah. Damn it.
Nope. It's bigger than Tusculum. They're located near Birmingham. They are not UAB. Oh, there's somebody who's listening to this that's screaming the answer right now.
Lordy.
I can feel it.
We're so dumb.
I don't know my Birmingham schools well enough. I'm sorry.
It sounds like a school Akshay's a fan of from the West Coast. Yes,
it's
Samford.
Samford. Oh, it's a good one. That's a good
But what's the number?
Yeah.
Are you going to guess?
Yes. I'll say 10.
16.
It's 8. They are 8-0 all-time against Samford. Those results, game spread between 2007 and 1903. The first two in 03 and 11 coming on the road. Very unusual in 1911 for Heisman to play anyone on the road. It's probably because Birmingham is an easy train trip away, and he didn't have to dither through the countryside. Samford did not score points against Tech in the first 5 meetings, sorry. And Georgia Tech has last played them in 07, a 69-14 win in front of 43,288 fans at home. I will note that I did not account for ties in doing this because I am dumb. So there might be a team out there which we have not lost to. So just take this as unblemished finish. So most wins without a loss or a tie.
Pretty sure we got room in the schedule in 25 to add him if we need to get another win.